Kirk Herbstreit is there because he is a really good announcer, has good insight, experience in the sport, and isn't afraid to share an opinion. And his opinion was simply that Indiana wasn't very good, that Indiana should not have been in the game. And Indiana fans have lost their ever-loving mind. They have. They've gone nuts. Hey, you played bad. You didn't look like you should have been in the game. I'm sorry. It was one of those nights where Notre Dame came out to kick everybody's ass, including mine, sitting in a bar called Foxborough's with my family watching the game. I felt like I got my ass kicked a little bit. It's all right. But people nationally have lost their mind. But that wasn't the biggest. That wasn't the best. I texted Herbie when I saw this yesterday morning. This was so good. I did not see this during the game or hear this, during the Ohio State-Tennessee game. But here's the deal. You get to a point where you're tired of fan stupidity. You're tired of fans coming at your ass. You're tired of fans and programs making idiots of themselves. But one thing that you really don't do or see at ESPN on a national broadcast is one entity of ESPN fighting with the other entity. Friend of the show, Kirk Herbstreit, did not hold back on exactly what I'm talking about. He discussed the lunatic fringe of college football. And boy, is he right. There is a lunatic fringe in Ohio State that is unbelievable. As soon as Ryan Day lost the game, that lunatic fringe grew and they wanted Ryan Day fired. He also, though, and this was where it got sexy, he also took a swipe at First Take. You know, Smith, Shay, and all the other little guys that come on there and spew racist nonsense. Well, he took a shot at them for trying to get Ryan Day fired, and that shocked him. All right? Let's see what they talk about on Monday. Here's Herbie in an 18-second clip that I guarantee you is still being, quote, dealt with in Building 4 on the campus of ESPN. Here's Herbie.
Lunatic fringe at Ohio State is as powerful as anywhere in the country.
How big is the fringe?
It used to be 8 to 10. I think it's grown now to about 15 to 20. So I don't know. I'm sure they'll be happy tonight, be fired up about what the Ohio State team did. But God forbid they lose to Oregon. They may want to fire them again.
But that's not reality. I mean, no. That's the thing. When you hear pundits on this network and other places talk about that with certainty, it's nonsense, frankly. I mean, the public doesn't pull the trigger and get rid of the coach.
No.
The administrators do, and they're behind them.
Yeah. First Take tried to fire him. They thought he was done. So I'll be excited to see what they talk about on Monday after this performance. They had him out. They're trying to find replacements. But here he is. There he is. He's still got his hat on. He's still coaching.
I love it. I do. I love it because Herbstreit is being the one thing that Herbstreit is, or one of the things. He's being totally honest. He's being totally honest. He's saying, look, this is crap. People are idiots. People on our own network that don't know jack squat. I could hear it in his voice, and this is what I text him. I could hear it in his voice, the disdain for the stupid. And that disdain, the minute Chris Fowler opened it up by saying, even people on this network, opened it up for Herbie to do what he did. Now, again, Building 4, bunch of white guys, right? Bunch of white guys got to deal with it because you know what's coming. 2 African-American hosts on First Take. Oh, it's racist, right? Why didn't he call out Mike and Mike or whatever the hell show is on in the morning? You know what's coming. But it is fascinating to me that you could hear in Herbstreit's voice the disdain, the absolute and utter disdain for First Take, and find replacements, which tried in Herbie's way, and I agree with him 100%, to throw even more dirt on them, to show even more disgust or lack of respect for the guys and gals on First Take. That was obvious to anyone with a pulse. And I am not seeing, and I did look yesterday and I looked today, there has been no reaction. See, what ESPN will do in this case, because this is 2 of their higher profile folks, right? Smith and Herbstreit. What they will try to do is not say nothing, implore Smith not to come back at him. I think if you look at what happens on TV and ratings, I think Smith should absolutely come back at him. I mean, what the hell? His show is not about the truth. See, First Take is about BS, and First Take has gotten out of control over the last couple of years with their own importance going after athletes. They go after everybody. Look, do I? Sure. Am I being hypocritical? Maybe. But the truth of the matter is Stephen A. Smith never coached, never played, has no background in sports other than to take a picture, write a book, read an article. But yet he comes at athletes and coaches in a way that makes him be perceived as an expert. And he knows the platform he has. He's a smart guy. The other guy, Shay is just a moron. I mean, I don't know, sex tapes and stupid stuff. Who knows what he's really about? But the fact of the matter is you could tell that Herbstreit has absolutely no respect, not even a little bit, for that show and the opinions of the people on that show. And good for him, he shouldn't. That show's gotten out of control. That show hides behind its ethnicity. That show hides behind, hey, man, come at us, we're going to call you racist. Come at us, we're going to infer your racial leanings, and they aren't towards us. And there is a segment, Awful Announcing and other places, that will run with that because they are down for that clown show. But boy, oh boy, was that telling. And I guarantee you this. I guarantee you it's all part. You see, I said a few weeks ago that Pat McAfee is the enemy of talent at ESPN, particularly the African-American talent. Herbie and McAfee are very close. Herbie was very instrumental in getting Pat the job at ESPN, certainly welcoming into game day. No ego by Herbstreit to have another person there, none whatsoever. But the fact of the matter is it's aligned, and you saw it. There is Herbie and McAfee over here, the First Take folk over there, and man, is it fun. It is, because you don't ever see that, ever, never. You have never seen that. The only thing that you see is infighting that stays away from the public eye. McAfee being the enemy because of how jealous and childish Smith and all his little cronies that get loud and stupid at ESPN. And that's just not black. That's white. That's all the little cool kids. Mina Kimes, Orlovsky, and all those little guys. Although Orlovsky crosses over pretty good. It's a turf war at ESPN, damn it. And I'm down to clown. I think we're all down to clown because the stuff is kind of fascinating. But as I said to Herbie, it's the best analysis that I've seen. And I'm not lying to you. It's the best analysis I saw on ESPN maybe ever. Because rarely do people go against the, quote, lunatic fringe. You may say, well, he's not going to get fired despite what fans want. But think about this. Calling the Ohio State Buckeye fans, the fans that he played in front, lunatic fringe is awesome. I get it. I do the same thing at Indiana. Oh, I get the hate all the time. It's great. But I tell you what, I don't think I've ever seen that on ESPN. I don't think I've ever seen that live. And I thought it was the best analysis because if the bosses, the Connor Shells of ESPN, and all these other guys are too afraid to rein in First Take or at least question First Take, at least one of the most powerful people there did. That's fun. Speaking of powerful people, I've always been a Lane Kiffin fan. Kinda, lately. But you know what? Lane Kiffin kind of showed his ass a little bit. Lane Kiffin sounded like the jilted little schoolgirl as Indiana was getting boat raced. He sounded kind of sort of like, hey, I'm a little jealous guy. You're out with my girl, and I'm going to snipe. And then when Penn State was taking SMU to the woodshed, he continued, but he didn't have much to say when his SEC brethren, the Tennessee Volunteers, apologies to Dylan, got their ass beat by an Ohio State team that simply is better. I mean, you can say whatever about Venge and chip on our shoulder, better, much better. And Kiffin was still pissed that Ole Miss got left out of the tournament. He was really pissed. He took the axe to take aim at the college football committee after witnessing the beatdown. And it was a beatdown of Indiana. I don't care if it was the closest game of the weekend. Nah, it was a beatdown. Well, based on the volume and vitriol of the responses, it didn't go well for him. especially after Tennessee got boat raced by Ohio State. And I got to tell you, here it is. Really exciting, competitive game. Great job. Well, that was early. He had it in his holster. Lane had it in his holster, and he bought into the narrative that Tennessee ultimately would avenge him and the SEC later on, but it didn't go that way. So here's a couple more shots from Lane Kiffin. There's one. Hey, really exciting. Way to keep us on the edge of our seats, committee. Riveting. 13.6 million views. That's like a major TV show. That's like an NFL game. That's how many people viewed Lane Kiffin. And I guarantee you at the time, people were, with him. Except Joe Klatt wasn't. Here's Joe Klatt. Watch this response. It's pretty good. If your team played half as well as you tweet, you would likely be in. And that was before the beatdown of the Tennessee Vols. Joe Klatt wasn't having it. Don't mess around with Joe Klatt. Joe Klatt's sitting around there too. He's pissed he's not doing the games because ESPN, ABC's got them all, but Joe Klatt had time on his hands too. And there's your shot. Dick Vitale taking a little shot. Okay, the critics of the selection of Indiana SMU, get over your school not being selected. Wow. Lane Kiffin, I thought you were better than mocking out Hoosiers for having a tough game. Did your Ole Miss ever have a bad game? Look at film of your Kentucky and Florida games. What? Dickie V, who I was texting with over the weekend, telling him that Indiana, I raise a glass to you. Looks like the cancer is going away, and Dickie V is spry. He ready. He not down to clown. Here's a fan's response to Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin catching it from all ends. Can we get a Lane Kiffin wellness check? All that chatter about the Hoosiers not being deserving of a playoff spot, awfully quiet after the SEC got kicked in the teeth. Dylan, apologies. I know it was hard for you to put that up, but hey, they did get kicked in the teeth. Here's another one. People weren't having it. Lane Kiffin logging off for the night is funny. Saw he couldn't advance his agenda any farther. Put his phone down. There's a lesson in that, really. Okay. Johnny Mack is like, hey, Jack Mack is like, hey, Lane. See, here's what happened. Lane really thought, and a lot of people did, don't get me wrong. I mean, I saw that Clay was catching hell from Ohio State fans, even the Ohio State AD, for saying that Vols fans took over Ohio Stadium. I think a lot of people, myself included, after listening to folks, thought, you know what? Tennessee's pretty good. And actually, I will say this, Tennessee, over the course of the week or 10 days or whatever it was off, they got better and better and better in the public eye. Now, I don't know how you do that. And then the fans started buying up the $65 half-price tickets at Ohio Stadium. And next thing you know, I think people, including Lane Kiffin, felt like, here we go. And that got over-dramatized. And you forgot that the better team, the more athletic team, the faster team, and arguably the best athletes in the country reside in Ohio State. Ohio State got worse. Remember, they lost to Michigan. Next thing you know, I'm not sure they could have won the MAC this year. Tennessee got better, and Kiffin bought into it. That's pretty funny. It is. Don't believe the hype. When I go running, that's one of the songs on this playlist that somehow has finagled its way into my life. Don't believe the hype. Well, Lane Kiffin believed the hype. He knew he was going to talk all morning or all night Friday night watching Indiana get beat, and he knew his Vols, they were going to make this bad boy right. We were going to be down to clown, and we were going to kick Ohio State, and then watch my Twitter, and then see what I got in the chamber. Ohio State game was over early and often, and Lane Kiffin went to bed. Hey, Ricky being Ricky. The prelude to Manny being Manny. Rest in peace, Rickey Henderson. Many people, including myself, will tell you that's the best all-around baseball player we ever saw. I wasn't old enough to see Willie Mays in his prime. I wasn't old enough to see Hank Aaron in his prime. I saw enough of them to know great player, don't get me wrong. But I saw Ricky being Ricky. And Ricky being Ricky is as good as it gets. Run, steal, hit for power, lead off, home runs, you name it, he had it. And unlike today, where you just don't see it, Rickey Henderson, talking in the third person as Rickey Henderson, was a character. He said famously to John Olerud, John Olerud is a first baseman and a really good player that wore a baseball helmet to play first base. Smart. Rickey Henderson got to first base, and he said, hey, man, last year I played with a dude that wore a helmet playing first base. And John Olerud goes, Rickey, that was me. We were teammates for 2 years. Rickey being Rickey. Leave Rickey alone. Rickey Henderson passed. And I got to tell you, man, Rickey Henderson's one of those guys that baseball needs. 20-tool player, whatever tool he had it. Energy, excitement, arrogance, a little bit of stupidity, but a little bit of fun stupidity. He had it all. Died at 65. Let's take a look at what Rickey Henderson did. If you didn't see Rickey Henderson play, Rickey Henderson could really play. 10-time All-Star, 2-time World Series champ, all-time stolen base, all-time runs scored leader, MVP, Silver Slugger, first ballot Hall of Famer, and a flair. You slap his glove. He would do things that the modern button-down baseball player doesn't do, even though they are trying to make the game fun. It didn't have to be scripted or stupid or disrespectful. Rickey Henderson played the game that every kid wanted, the way every kid wanted to play the game. And every kid that watched him, oh, man, he was dynamite. 100 stolen base, 120 stolen bases, that kind of thing. Here's Ricky Cobb's tribute to Rickey Henderson, the two Rickeys. Super sky point of Rickey Henderson, the greatest leadoff man base stealer that ever set foot on a baseball diamond. I'm stunned. Some guys seem larger than mortality. Rickey was one of them. Only time I ever interacted with Rickey, he was in Hawaii when we were there playing in the Maui Classic. And he had a bunch of little kids with him. And seemed like a great dude. I don't bother him. Didn't say nothing. He was a little shorter than I thought. Now he was stocky and built like crazy. That's sad news when I saw Rickey Henderson died. Not happy with it. Apparently over the weekend was the weekend for me to text with peeps, my peeps. Danny Hurley hit me with a text saying he's going to come on the show. He said, just have you guys hit me up. They're doing a pretty good job. Danny Hurley, I told him FEA. FEA means M all. F them all. When all of the little goofs on TV, whether it was Tyler Hansbrough, Hummel, Goodman, all the guys. Well, when all they were saying, I remember Hummel and Goodman, we need to have a conversation about Danny Hurley. Really? Why? I mean, do you think anything's going to change with your conversation? Do you think anything is going to swing because Jeff Goodman and Robbie Hummel have a conversation? Tyler Hansbrough chimed in too. What do you guys think? If I ever say, should we have a conversation about Barack Obama? Just punch me right in the side of the head. No, seriously, just punch me right in the head. So Hurley isn't backing down. He didn't back down. I'm not going to read you the text that we exchanged, but it basically said simply this. Yeah, I was born in the 80s and 90s, man, coming up in hoops. I'm not backing down. I'm coaching the way I coach. That's right. Hurley doesn't back down. He kept receipts, wondering where those same podcasters are now that the Huskers have rattled off 6 straight and sit at 10-3. Not all podcasts are stupid, but some of them are. Some of them say stupid shit. He's right. Most of them do. Here's Danny Hurley.
I'm not sure how many people at that point in Maui were on their stupid podcasts saying we'd be 10-3. But it's not all podcasts are stupid, but just some of them are. Some of them say stupid shit.
He's right. He's right. I mean, can you imagine you got Jeff Goodman and Robbie Hummel? Let's have a conversation. This is beneath him. What? Hey, man, let me explain what college basketball needs. College basketball needs, and sports in general, needs more Danny Hurley. More. not less. Needs guys that aren't afraid of players. Needs guys that aren't acquiescing to players. Needs guys that aren't kissing the freaking ass of players. Needs guys that are going to go, look, I don't give a damn who you are, where you're from, what you've accomplished. We have a standard here. You're going to live up to it or F you. And then what we also need, I mean, how many coaches do we have on the sidelines that literally, and I'm being literal here, don't know their ass from third base, but they stand like this on the sideline, but they don't know what the hell they're watching. I mean, one of the most interesting things that I did at ESPN was get to talk to coaches before the game or at practice. And I could give you a list of coaches that I can't believe they win a game. Like, if they didn't have great players, they couldn't beat off. But they do, or they get them, and they're all right. But Danny Hurley's a coach's coach. Danny Hurley's a guy's guy. And more young adult males in this country need Danny Hurley than some guy sitting there kissing their ass, than some guy sitting there faking it till he makes it. Kids need a little discipline. The sport needs toughness. I mean, you watch the NBA. What's the NBA? It's falling off a cliff. Why? There's no toughness. Everybody kisses each other's ass before, after the game, shoots threes, walks away. You watch Danny Hurley and his team, everybody's battling, fighting, scratching, clawing, and so is he. Man, I must confess, I was a complete maniac on the sideline. I remember the AD at Toledo when we beat him, and I punched out, literally knocked out the water cooler that was on the end of the bench. After I saw Rick Majerus do it in Maui, I thought, next time I get a chance, I'm going to take a swing. I did. Actually didn't even think about Majerus at the time it was there. I'd be a hypocrite if I said anything else, and my players love me. Love it. Love me, love it. Take a bullet for each other now. At the time, did they like it? No, but the college basketball world is so vanilla. The college basketball world is so cream puff. That's just ridiculous. It's asinine. It's ridiculous, and I am not here for it. We need to have a conversation about Jeff Goodman, that slew-eyed, slew-footed, non-athletic putz. What are you, nuts? Get him out of here. Get him out of here. Diva wide receiver alert. Each week, another clown wide receiver acts like a jackass. And this guy's on the market. This guy could not handle success in Pittsburgh. Diontae, whatever the hell his name is, Diontae Johnson. So Diontae Johnson said enough, the Baltimore Ravens said enough and released Diontae Johnson. They acquired from the Panthers in a trade earlier this season. He finished the team 1 reception, 6 yards. This trade was a disaster from the start because Johnson's an idiot. Because Johnson thinks he's something he's not. Johnson must be getting bad advice. Trade was a disaster from the start. In his first game with the team, Johnson had just 1 catch, 6 yards. That turned out to be the only catch he had with the team. How about that? Good for him. The Ravens suspended Johnson earlier this month, saying he refused to play against the Philadelphia Eagles earlier this week. The Ravens then excused him from practice. Surely Johnson had to be relieved to be traded by the lowly Panthers to a team that's a legitimate Super Bowl contender. Now he appears to be on his 3rd team in as many months. Look, you got to not trade for idiot wide receivers. You don't win with idiot wide receivers. I mean, let's be honest. Who's the best team in the league? Let's say it's the Bills. They don't have idiot wide receivers. John Harbaugh with Baltimore doesn't tolerate idiot wide receivers. You know, remember when DeAndre Hopkins went to the Titans? How's that worked out? I'm just telling you, man, idiot wide receivers get all the press, all the little white media, doesn't know how to handle them. They don't want to offend them because they know they'll shoot back. Coaches are afraid of them. You got to spend way too much time with them, and it detracts from the team. Stephon Diggs is gone. Where'd he go? Went to Houston. Now I know he's out for the year. You think that hurt Baltimore or Buffalo? Hell no. The only coaches that have the stones to do something that Harbaugh did is Harbaugh and maybe Andy Reid. But somehow everybody gets acclimated into Andy Reid's world. And by the way, whatever happened to Rashee Rice getting suspended for crashing into people? Remember him? He got hurt. Whatever happened to that? Crashed into a bunch of people, hurt a bunch of people, and walked away on his phone, speaking of the Chiefs. I don't know. ABC News. How about that? ABC News, Democratic Senator John Fetterman. What? He of the hooded sweatshirt and the shorts in 20-degree weather. He sounded like a Republican the way he was heaping praise on Trump while taking issue with the Democrats constantly labeling Trump a fascist. Is the world starting to turn in the right axis? Is the world starting to become complete now? Give it to me, baby. Let me hear from Fetterman.
And after you survived an assassination, you literally were shot in your head and had the presence of mind to respond, fight, fight, fight. I mean, that's a political talent. It's undeniable. And also, I never believed that it was about fascism. And for me, that made it difficult for
Kamala Harris said that he was a fascist.
Yeah, well, it's like that's her prerogative. I mean, but it's not a word that I would use because you put a lot of Democrats, especially in my state, that I know and I happen to love people that are going to vote for Trump, and they are not fascist. And also fascism, that's not a word that regular people, use. That, I think people are going to decide who is the candidate that's going to protect and project, my version of the American way of life. And that's what happened.
The more I hear of Fetterman, the more I like him. He comes off, maybe he was crazy. I don't know all that stuff that they were talking about. But he's right. I don't think most people even knew what a fascist is. See what happened in the election, and I believe this. The Democrats tried to throw as much mud against the wall and hope one stuck. Remember the whole weird thing with J.D. Vance? And then America saw J.D. Vance in a debate and said, wait a second, J.D. Vance not weird. He's smart. The fascist thing was kind of a thread. The Nazi thing. And good for all of us. Good for all of us that we didn't stand by and say, yeah, that's right. He is. No. People say, well, okay, what are you talking about? Well, show me. Well, they couldn't. Just like show me where J.D. Vance is weird. That came out of nowhere. You bring out, jazz hands, walls, and you're going to project onto J.D. Vance the weird that is walls. To quote a good friend of mine, Dan, that don't make no sense. That don't make no sense. So the fascist is right, and good for Fetterman. Fetterman is not afraid to speak his mind, and I think we can get all down with that, whether you like his mind or not. I mean, look, maybe you're saying, well, you only like him because he's come over to your side. Not really. I just like him because what you heard right there was common sense. I don't think the American people understood or used terms like fascist. I don't think they do. I don't think I've ever used the term fascist to describe anybody. Nobody. And then you go with Nazi, and that's just off the chain. I mean, anyway, I like when people start thinking for themselves, and that's a good thing, really good thing. All right, NFL, Buffalo Bills, man, they did survive the Patriots. Patriots got off going a little bit, but the Bills, they just kept going and going and going and going, and much to the chagrin of all the African-American talking heads on ESPN, Josh Allen pulled it out in the end. Colts down the Texans in a wild one. Jonathan Taylor is still running. Jonathan Taylor might have 400 yards right now. And I got to tell you, I know it's easy to say a team has quit. I know it's easy to say a coach has lost his locker room. I know that's easy, but I got to tell you, that's what I saw for the most part yesterday. Now, I will give absolutely 1,000% the Titans credit for coming back and battling back, but when that thing went south, holy cow, that thing went south quick. 31-7 at one point, and then they did battle back because the Colts aren't any good either. Vikings down the Seahawks. Man, how about the Vikings? How about Sam Darnold and the Vikings just continue to roll? Like that AFC North or NFC North is unbelievable. Like, let's be honest. That's the best league in football. And 3-4 years ago, it was among the worst, along with the AFC South. Darnold is great. I don't know what the hell happens to him. It feels like to me he's going to get paid somewhere big. I mean, everybody loves J.J. McCarthy. But the interesting thing is this, and I'm going to shill for this guy because he deserves it. When Ryan Grigson was a general manager in Indianapolis, they won. He gets fired. And he got fired because he was too mean. The Colts redo their thing. Ryan goes as a special advisor, gets hired real quick by Andrew Berry when he becomes a general manager of the Browns. Ryan goes there, and the Browns have some really good years. Then the Vikings poach him. He's second or third in command with the Vikings, and next thing you know, how good are they? And they're tough, and they don't back down. Huh. Well, both the Cowboys and the 49ers got eliminated last night. And here's a question. I'll give you one. You all can tell me Brock Purdy's great, and maybe he is, but you giving him what some of these guys are making if you're San Francisco? And you've shown that basically you can win with anybody. Are you really giving him that money? You had to look in the mirror. I mean, Dak Prescott's hurt, but Dak Prescott and the Cowboys, they gave him that huge thing. He gets hurt again, and they're out of the playoffs. So no 49ers, no Cowboys in the playoffs, even though the Cowboys did win. A word. You know, I'm watching the Lions and the Bears, and the Lions don't have half their defense. I mean, they got guys hurt and hurt. I mean, honest to God, good players. Hutchinson hurt. Their best corner hurt. 13 new guys, and they beat the Bears. They beat the Bears, and the Bears were supposed to have this young guy, the offensive coordinator, Brown, that they elevated. Yeah, well, it ain't working. Bears have a worse record this year with Caleb Williams than they had last year with Justin Fields. That ain't supposed to happen. If I'm the owner of the Bears, I'm pissed. There's two owners that I'm legitimately pissed. If I'm the Giants owner, I'm legitimately pissed. And if I'm the Bears owner, I'm legitimately pissed. Mara, McCaskey, I'm legitimately pissed watching this. Spent a lot of money. There's no reason. You're not young. You're not rebuilding. No, your team sucks too, both of you. I would be sitting with a conversation with my general manager going, what in the hell are you doing? And by the way, Jaden Daniels, I don't know who the MVP is. I don't know who the MVP isn't. Jalen Hurts got hurt. He was out. Kenny Pickett came in. The defense started going. Then the offense got and next thing you know, end of the game, whap, Jaden Daniels comes through. You know, again, it's not only one guy. Obviously, you got to have protection and receiver to catch the ball, that stuff. But Jaden Daniels came through. I watched Brock Purdy have a chance to come through. It wasn't close. I'm just saying, Jaden Daniels, talk about turning a franchise around. Dan Quinn, coach of the year? I don't know. How about Jaden Daniels, MVP? No, he's not, but he's close. Michael Penix, pick 6. And this is the Giants. Penix, great. Good for him. I like the kid. He did great things in Indiana, 34-7. But if I am the coach, if I am the owner of the Giants, I got to tell you, this is a family business. This is one of the iconic franchises in that business that's starting to get really corporate. It's personal when it's family, like the McCaskies in Chicago and the Maras in New York. I got to be hostile. I got to clean everybody. I mean, I may go into that building today and get rid of everybody except the players and go hire some guy off the street to come on in and coach. I just couldn't look at that anymore. And the Raiders screw themselves out of the first pick. They beat the Jags. So now it looks like the Giants have the first pick. What a game. Raiders and Jaguars. 19-14. Man.